Man is carrying £250,000 in cash. In 12 minutes, that money will vanish from the physical world and reappear as cryptocurrency in a wallet controlled by Russian intelligence operatives. The British police are watching every step. What they don't know yet is that they're about to uncover the largest money laundering operation in a decade. An empire so sophisticated it served everyone from street dealers in Manchester to the Kinahan gang, Europe's most dangerous criminal organization with a $1.5 billion fortune. So invisible that it operated from Oxford Circus in central London while remaining completely unknown to international law enforcement. So complex that it took 4 years and 8 countries to bring down. By the end of this investigation, 84 people would be arrested across more than 30 countries. £20 million seized. And the world would learn that the line between organized crime, state power, and legitimate business had completely disappeared. But it all started with a single ransomware attack. A hospital's computers locked. A ransom demand. And one detective who decided to follow the money. What they found changed everything we thought we knew about modern crime. October 2021. Computers across Britain's National Health Service start going dark. Screens flash red. Files encrypt. A message appears, quote, "Your files have been locked by Ryuk ransomware. Pay Bitcoin or lose everything." End quote. Detective Sarah Mitchell at the National Crime Agency has seen this before. Ransomware attacks are becoming routine. Follow the Bitcoin. Find the criminals. Case closed. But this time was different. The Bitcoin trail didn't lead to some basement hacker in Eastern Europe. It led to something much bigger. Much more dangerous. A financial network that spanned continents and served clients she couldn't have imagined. Here's what makes this story terrifying. At that moment, Detective Mitchell had no idea she was staring at the tip of an iceberg that reached all the way to the Kremlin. She thought she was chasing cybercriminals. She was actually about to expose how the world really works. Because while you were going about your daily life, believing that criminals and governments operate in separate worlds, there was a shadow economy processing hundreds of millions of dollars. Your tax money stolen by ransomware. Drug money from Europe's most violent cartels. Sanctions-busting payments funding wars. All flowing through networks that were completely invisible to law enforcement. And if you want to understand how deep this rabbit hole goes, and trust me, you do, make sure you're subscribed because what I'm about to show you will change how you see the news forever. Following Bitcoin should be simple. Every transaction is recorded on the blockchain. But Detective Mitchell quickly realized she was looking at something she'd never seen before. The ransomware Bitcoin wasn't going to a single wallet. It was being split, mixed, and moved through dozens of addresses in a pattern that looked almost professional. You know that feeling when you're walking alone at night and you hear footsteps behind you? That growing certainty that something's wrong but you can't quite put your finger on it? That's what Mitchell felt looking at these transactions. Then her phone rang. Detective Mitchell. We've got a situation in East London. Surveillance team followed a suspected drug dealer to what looks like a cash pickup. Thing is, he's carrying £250,000. Forward Saedi. Small-time courier. Walking through London with more cash than most people see in a lifetime. But here's the thing that made Mitchell's blood run cold. The timestamp on the surveillance footage, 1423. The timestamp on a massive Bitcoin transaction that appeared in one of her ransomware wallets, 1431. 8 minutes apart. Either this was the most incredible coincidence in criminal justice history, or she was looking at something that shouldn't exist. A system that could turn cash into cryptocurrency and move it across continents in real time. Cash picked up in London. Bitcoin appearing in Russia. Faster than you could transfer money between your own bank accounts. And that's when Detective Mitchell understood she wasn't investigating cybercrime anymore. She was investigating the future of crime itself. She made 3 phone calls that day. 1 to her supervisor. 1 to international liaison. And 1 to a cryptocurrency analyst who would later tell her this was the most sophisticated laundering operation anyone had ever documented. But what none of them knew was that while they were figuring out what they'd found, the people running this network were watching them back. And they had been operating completely undetected by international law enforcement for years. Because when you're moving hundreds of millions of dollars for the kind of people who fund wars and topple governments, you don't stay successful by being careless. Meet Ekaterina Zdanova, 28 years old. Instagram lifestyle influencer. $1 million wardrobe. Private jet photos. Luxury hotels in Dubai and Monaco. Everything you think you know about this woman is a lie. Ekaterina Zdanova is the head of the Smart Network, the most sophisticated money laundering operation the world has ever seen. And while you were double-tapping her luxury lifestyle posts, she was processing hundreds of millions of dollars for ransomware gangs, drug cartels, Russian intelligence, and Europe's most dangerous criminal organization. But here's what kept Detective Mitchell awake at night. Zdanova wasn't operating alone. The financial trails led to a second network. Different methods. Different clients. Same devastating efficiency. Meet George Rossi, former Russian banker who moved to Europe and transformed himself into something else entirely. Something much more dangerous. Along with Elena Cherkinian and Andres Bradence, Rossi ran the TGR Group. And here's the audacity that still shocks investigators. They operated from an office in Oxford Circus, one of London's busiest shopping districts. Thousands of people walked past their headquarters every day, completely unaware that inside, criminals were processing money for some of the world's most dangerous organizations. And together, these two networks had built something that shouldn't exist, a criminal infrastructure that served everyone. Russian oligarchs evading sanctions. The Kinahan gang, Europe's most violent drug cartel with a $1.5 billion fortune. South American cocaine operations. Ransomware gangs like Ryuk cashing out their Bitcoin. All using the same system. Think about that for a second. While governments were fighting cybercrime, drug trafficking, and sanctions evasion as separate problems, criminals had built a unified solution. One network. Multiple clients. Operating across more than 30 countries. Hundreds of millions in revenue. And if this is blowing your mind, which it should be, hit that notification bell right now. Because what I'm about to show you about how this actually worked will make you question everything you thought you knew about modern finance. But the networks went deeper than even Mitchell initially realized. Because while Zdanova and Rossi were the masterminds, they had lieutenants, specialists, people with very specific skills and very specific backgrounds. Meet Seaman Kuksov, 24 years old, son of Russian oil executive Vladimir Kuksov, born into wealth and privilege. But that wasn't enough. Along with his partner Andriy Jeksa, Kuksov ran a boutique operation within the Smart Network. And when I say boutique, I mean this. In just 74 days, they laundered 14 million euros. That's nearly 200,000 euros per day. Every single day. But here's the twist that shows how sophisticated these operations had become. Kuksov and his father had bought multi-citizenship in 2022. European Union passports. The ultimate escape route. They weren't just planning crimes, they were planning their retirement from crime. The system worked like this: cash pickup in London, cryptocurrency deposit in Moscow, cash pickup in Manchester, cryptocurrency deposit in Dubai, cash pickup in Birmingham, cryptocurrency deposit in Latvia. And the British police were watching it all happen in real time. They could see the pattern, but they couldn't stop it. Yet. Because stopping it meant understanding something that no law enforcement agency had ever faced before. What do you do when criminals start operating like multinational corporations? Smart and TGR weren't just moving money. They were providing financial services, customer support, quality guarantees, international expansion, market penetration strategies. They had sales representatives who would pitch their services to criminal organizations. They had become the Amazon of crime. Here's how you hide a money laundering operation in plain sight. You start a car export business. Valery and Oksana Popovic. Ukrainian couple living in Britain. Legitimate business exporting vehicles to Ukraine. During wartime, this looked heroic. Patriotic, even. Except it was completely fake. The cars were real. The exports were real. But the prices were fiction. A car worth £10,000 would be invoiced at £50,000. The difference? Pure money laundering. Drug money goes in as quote car payments. Clean money comes out as quote export revenue. The vehicles provided perfect documentation for massive financial transfers. But that was just one method. These networks had dozens. Shell companies in 12 countries. Each one real enough to pass basic scrutiny. Each one designed to obscure the money trail just enough to buy time. Cryptocurrency mixing services that could take your Bitcoin and return completely different Bitcoin with no traceable history. Like a washing machine for digital money. Import-export businesses dealing in everything from electronics to textiles. All with perfectly plausible documentation. All completely fraudulent. And here's what made Detective Mitchell realize she was dealing with something unprecedented. Every single method was working. Traditional financial crime investigation depends on finding the weak link. The mistake. The transaction that doesn't make sense. But Smart and TGR had eliminated weak links. They had backup methods for their backup methods. If the car export business got scrutinized, there were textile imports. If cryptocurrency mixing got traced, there were shell company transfers. If shell companies got exposed, there were new ones already set up. It was like fighting a hydra. Cut off one head, two more appeared. And that's when Mitchell understood the terrifying truth. This wasn't organized crime anymore. This was organized business. These networks tracked performance metrics. Customer satisfaction. Processing times. Error rates. They had quality assurance departments. Customer service representatives. Regional managers. They had turned crime into a service industry. But what they didn't account for was Detective Mitchell's team doing something criminals never expect law enforcement to do. Think like customers. December 2022. The investigation that started with a single ransomware attack now involved 8 countries and had a codename, Operation Destabilise. Detective Mitchell wasn't just following money anymore. She was mapping an entire shadow economy. And what she found was terrifying. The Smart and TGR networks weren't just serving cybercriminals and drug dealers. They were providing financial infrastructure for activities that threatened national security. Russia Today. The Kremlin's international propaganda network. Sanctioned by Britain after the Ukraine invasion. Completely cut off from Western financial systems. Except they weren't. £2 million. Moved from Russia Today through the TGR network into British accounts. While RT was supposedly banned from operating in the UK, they were actively funding operations using the same networks that served drug dealers and ransomware gangs. But it gets worse. The money wasn't just for propaganda. Intelligence sources revealed funding for influence operations, disinformation campaigns, activities designed to destabilize Western democracies. And suddenly this wasn't just about crime anymore. This was about the stability of the system you live in. While you were arguing about politics online, the same networks laundering drug money were funding the disinformation designed to tear your country apart. But Detective Mitchell was about to discover something even worse. Because when you start investigating Russian intelligence funding, other intelligence agencies start paying attention. American agencies. European agencies. Agencies that had been tracking these same networks for different reasons. And what they told Mitchell changed everything. The Kinahan Organised Crime Group. If you don't know this name, you should. They're considered one of Europe's most dangerous criminal organizations. $1.5 billion drug empire that has turned parts of Ireland and Spain into war zones. The next part of this story is so classified that some details are still redacted. But what I can tell you will show you how deep state-level corruption really goes. Make sure you're subscribed because this is information most people will never hear. SMART and TGR weren't just serving Russian intelligence. They were serving the Kinahan gang, one of the most violent criminal organizations in Europe. The same people responsible for dozens of murders, gang wars, international drug trafficking on a scale that dwarfs most countries' GDP. The shadow economy Mitchell had uncovered wasn't just criminal. It was geopolitical. And it was actively reshaping international relations while staying completely invisible to the public. And then there was the Irish connection. Igor Logvinov, a courier working for Seaman Kuksov's operation who was arrested in Dublin. What seemed like a simple arrest revealed something chilling. The same networks serving Russian intelligence were also serving Ireland's most dangerous criminal gang. March 15, 2024, 4:47 a.m. Coordinated raids across 8 countries. The largest international financial crime operation in history was about to begin. But here's what made this different from every other criminal takedown: they had to move simultaneously. If any network detected the raids early, within minutes hundreds of millions of dollars would vanish into cryptocurrency and never be recovered. London, ready. Dublin, ready. Paris, ready. Dubai, ready. Riga, ready. At exactly 5 o'clock a.m. Greenwich Mean Time, police in 8 countries moved simultaneously. Fawad Saedi, arrested in London with £250,000 in cash. The same courier who had started this entire investigation. George Rossi, the former Russian banker turned criminal mastermind, arrested in Dubai while trying to board a flight to a non-extradition country. Elena Cherkinian, arrested in London at her luxury apartment, still in her pajamas. Seaman Kuksov, the oil executive's son with the Maltese passport, arrested trying to flee Europe. Andriy Jeksa, Kuksov's partner who had laundered €14 million in 74 days, arrested at his safe house. But the biggest target was still free. Ekaterina Zdanova, the luxury influencer who ran a billion-dollar criminal empire. She hadn't been seen for weeks. Intelligence suggested she was in France, but no one knew where. French authorities launched a massive search operation. Hotels, private residences, every luxury location where someone with her lifestyle might hide. And then, at 2:30 p.m. Paris time, a facial recognition system got a hit. Charles de Gaulle Airport. Boarding gate for a flight to Moscow. Ekaterina Zdanova, attempting to flee back to Russia under a false passport. She was arrested 6 minutes before her flight was scheduled to depart. The final tally: 84 arrests across more than 30 countries. £20 million in cash and cryptocurrency seized. Hundreds of thousands of documents recovered. Digital evidence that would take years to fully analyze. Sentences ranged from 3 years for couriers to more than 5 years for network leaders. Seaman Kuksov got 5 years and 7 months. Andriy Jeksa got 5 years. Igor Logvinov, the Irish connection, got 3 years. And for the first time in 4 years, Detective Mitchell could sleep peacefully knowing that one of the most dangerous criminal enterprises in history had been dismantled. But was it really over? The arrests made headlines worldwide, but most coverage missed the real story. This wasn't just about catching criminals. This was about exposing how the modern world actually works. While governments publicly fight cybercrime, drug trafficking, and sanctions evasion as separate problems, criminals had already solved the integration challenge. One network, multiple services, operating across more than 30 countries, hundreds of millions in revenue. Operation Destabilise revealed something terrifying. The shadow economy isn't separate from the legitimate economy anymore. It's integrated, parasitic, fed by the same technological advances that make your daily life more convenient. The same systems that let you send money instantly anywhere in the world also let criminals do the same thing. The same encryption that protects your privacy also protects their communications. The same global financial integration that makes international business possible also makes international crime inevitable. And here's the question that keeps intelligence analysts awake at night. How many other networks are out there right now, operating at the same level, serving the same clients, but still completely undetected? Because SMART and TGR were discovered by accident. A single detective following a ransomware payment stumbled across a billion-dollar criminal empire that was completely unknown to international law enforcement. What would we find if we were actually looking? The next time you see news about cybercrime, drug arrests, or sanctions violations, remember this story. Remember that what looks like separate problems might actually be the same network, serving different clients, using the same infrastructure. Detective Mitchell is still working at the National Crime Agency, still following money trails, still uncovering networks that shouldn't exist. And she'll tell you that Operation Destabilise wasn't the end of anything. It was proof of concept, evidence that this level of investigation is possible. The question is, are we willing to do it again? If this story changed how you think about crime, technology, and the modern world, subscribe for more investigations into the systems that really run our world. Hit the notification bell because these stories matter, and most people will never hear them. And let me know in the comments, what part of this investigation shocked you the most? The scale? The sophistication? The Kinahan connection? Or the fact that they were operating from Oxford Circus while remaining completely invisible to law enforcement? Because the next network is out there right now. Processing money, serving clients, operating in plain sight. The only question is, will we find it before it's too late?